Hey guys, and welcome to another model review with me. So, today we're discussing my first, and I literally do mean this, my very first modernish warship. So, yeah guys, modern warships are going to be a thing on the channel, although I will say this, there won't be many. I've explained, or I will be explaining more of this in my last modern warship at the moment, which will be the Sovereign Many. And from there on we'll just listen to the videos and you'll have the information as it goes, guys. But needless to say, yes, this is the first of maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 modernish warships I will be building in the foreseeable future. So let's talk a bit about her. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you USS Ticonderoga CG-47 missile cruiser. So, there is a bit of history to get through before we get into the meat and bones of this model kit, guys. So, sit back and relax because we've got a lot to discuss. So, first of all, I suspect some of you are wondering what the word CG means. Why is she CG, Baz? Why is it a CG cruiser? Well, the Ticonderogas are a group of crews, obviously. Ticonderogas are a group of cruisers, obviously, for the US Navy. And they're the last designed cruisers for the US Navy at the moment. USS Ticonderoga herself is sadly no longer with us, but we'll talk about her history shortly in a minute. The reason why she's the 47th missile cruiser, however, is because there were 46 ships before her that were called CG cruisers. So, I guess it's best to tell you the story from what I can gather, guys. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. My information on modern warships is very well. Let me put it this way: I don't make up a script for any of this, and I try to look as much up as possible before I talk about the ships in question. But modern warships, it can be difficult at times, especially when it comes to their career service, because obviously some of them are still with us, and obviously. You know, there's the Secrets Navy Pact. There's a bunch of things which the general public will not be allowed to be known until it's time. Some ships have been doing certain things which are secret to the government of the country in question, or there's a bunch of things that it can make things rather confusing, guys. So you have to bear with me when it comes to information. Anyway, moving on. CG. Guided cruiser or missile cruiser is basically the term for it. Now, as I said, she is the 47th, and the reason why is because the last 46 cruisers that came before her basically built up to these ships. You see, way back, I do mean way back in World War II, literally at the end, the last couple of the Baltimore class cruisers, USS Canberra and USS Boston, were actually converted after the end of World War II, and Boston led the way as the first CG cruiser. So she was CG-01 and Canberra was CG-02. And basically what they did with the Baltimore class is they took off the stern turret and a couple of other old weapon systems and replaced them with missile launchers. Hence the term, guided missile and missile cruiser. So you had CG1, CG2, that was both of them in the Boston class. Then I do believe you had the Galveston class, which were modified derivatives of the Cleveland class light cruiser. Obviously, once again, lots of upgrades and things to make him into that sort of thing. And I do believe USS Little Rock is still with us, so she is obviously a museum in America somewhere. Don't quote me, guys, because I don't know myself. Moved on from that, and then obviously later on down the line, the US Navy also built nuclear-powered missile cruisers. Yes, it turns out the Kirovs were not the first, and I definitely don't think they'll be the last. But USS Long Beach, which was CG-09, came into commission, and she led the way with the nuclear fleet. You know, the USS Enterprise and the Bainbridge. At least I think it was the Bainbridge. Don't quote me on that one, guys, obviously. But she led the way there. Then that led on to another class of cruiser, which I can't remember the name, but I do remember the name after the next one after that, which was the California class, which then led on to the Virginia class, and from the Virginia class led on to these guys. And as I said before, there is a good number of these ships, guys. So let's talk a bit about the actual layout of the Ticonderoga themselves. So USS Ticonderoga was ordered on the 22nd of September 1978. Her builder was the Ilgus Ingelus. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, some of my pronunciation is a bit bad, but shipbuilding. She was laid down on the 21st of January 1980 and she was launched on the 25th of April 1981, and she was commissioned and ready to go by the 22nd of January 1983. So when it comes to the history of Ticonderoga herself, I can't really find too much out about her, guys. Again, even though she was decommissioned and scrapped just a couple of yeah, it's kind of crazy actually when I think about it. She was actually scrapped just a couple of years ago, back in 2020 apparently. I never knew this was actually going on until it was obviously just come to my knowledge on with things. I do believe I've seen some pictures of Ticonderoga, or what's left of her, mainly her bow, bless her. But yeah, she's definitely been scrapped. But her story, where she went and all that, I can't really find out too much, guys. It does say here, I'm using Wikipedia by the way, guys. I will be using Wikipedia for any of the modern warships, because it's the only way I can get the information for you. Ticonderoga entered service in 1983, as I said. She was deployed later that year in the Mediterranean. Over her first 10 years of service, Ticonderoga deployed multiple times to the Mediterranean, Atlantic and the Indian Ocean, and the Persian Gulf as well. Obviously, we all know the reason why that is. One thing I can definitely say, she was definitely at Operation Desert Storm, you know, like Missouri and Iowa definitely were. She was attacked by the Battle Force Zulu and survived as the... It's very difficult for me to follow this, guys. I do apologise. Again, I don't have a script for any of this. Although she was built with a 35-year service, limited missile capacity of the Ticonderoga's twin Mark 26 missile launchers. Yeah, basically that's all the design specifications and stuff, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know too much about her history, guys. If you want to fill in the blanks, then feel free to let me know in the comment box below, because again, if you've served on Ticonderoga herself, I would love to hear it from some of you on what you thought about this ship. Me personally, I'll give you my personal thoughts in a few, but let's go over the general characteristics of the Ticons as it is. So she actually has a good motto: First Aegis Cruiser. Tyco is a short name for Ticonderoga for her. The Ticonderogas had a displacement of between 9,600 tonnes and 9,800 tonnes fully loaded. The whole lengths of the Ticonderogas was 567 feet or 173 metres. The beam was 55 feet or 16.8 metres, and the draft was 34 feet, 10.2 metres. They had a propulsion system of 4 General Electric LM2500 gas turbines engines, 2 controllable reversible pitch propellers, so she could go backwards under her own power, which is pretty cool, and 2 rudders, so she was highly manoeuvrable in her time. And talk about manoeuvrability, well, her top speed was 32.5 knots. That's 37.4 miles per hour. So Ticon, you're getting a speeding ticket. Yeah, I've actually decided I'm going to include that joke for every model review for the foreseeable future, guys. So like it or hate it, I'm keeping it because in my head it just sounds funny. Anyway, the crew complement of the Ticonderogas was 30 officers and 300 enlisted men and women, and that's basically all I can say about the characteristics. Now, again, another thing which I'm not very good at, guys, is the radar, the other systems and bits and pieces, but I can tell you in, well, the Barry version, if you like. But she had multiple different radars, and they functioned anywhere between, you know, surface contact radars, so she could detect ships from a certain range, air radar, so she can detect aircraft from certain ranges, surface search, gun, fire control radar, sonar system, which is actually in the stern, in the bow here. This isn't just a bulbous bow for show. She actually has got a sonar sitting inside that. The major reason why this is because when the Ticons were built, they actually were used to hunt Soviet submarines at one point in time or another. Again, don't quote me on that, guys, but I do believe that's something they were used in. The other reason why the Ticons also came into service is ironically because of a ship I mentioned earlier, the Kirov class battlecruisers. Now, obviously, nobody has got anything on the Kirovs when it comes to missiles. They carry the most, they're the most dangerous and the most powerful. Obviously, as far as I know, there's only 2 of them about today, but there are still plenty of Tychos out there, even though a few of them are being scrapped as we speak. So let's talk about the weapon systems. Tycho would carry 2 6-inch naval guns, one in the bow and one in the stern there. You guys can see these are rapid firing guns, so they're very powerful indeed. She'd also carry 2 Mark 26 missile launchers, and these would be here and here also in the bow and stern. Obviously, I'm aware, guys, that the Ticonderogas did get upgrades, and these missile launchers were replaced with cells, so just have to pretend that the cells were there. I've got Ticonderoga looking like she was possibly just after she was commissioned in 1983, so I'm kind of happy about that because it's pretty much what I wanted Tycho to look like. She does carry, and I believe this is the one I'm in question I was talking about, 68 RIM-66SM2 missiles. She carries 20 RUR-5 ASROC missiles, and she also carries 8 RGM-84 Harpoon missiles. So, yeah, very dangerous loadout, but we're not done just yet. Oh, no, no, no. This is an American warship, guys. She carries lots of firepower. She also carries 2 5-inch, oh wait, no, they're 5-inch. Yeah, never mind. I thought they were 6-inch guns. They're actually 5-inch guns. They're 5-inch, 127mm, 54 caliber, Mark 45 lightweight guns. I wouldn't say they were lightweight. No way, shape or form. But be it as it is. She also carries 2 4 50. I do believe that might be a 50 caliber machine gun. 12.7mm cal machine gun. It does sound like a 50 cal to me. But I think somewhere along the line, I'm pretty sure someone told me many years ago that they don't have 50 calibers on their ships anymore. Well, obviously, if you guys know, then let me know in the comment section below. Either way, she had those, and she carried 2 Felix Seawiz guns, which you guys can see right here in the middle of the ship. Very powerful and very dangerous missile defense system, and don't even think about getting close with an aircraft. They'll just shred you. And to make it all to, just to give more insult to injury, she'd also carry 2 Mark 32 12.75-inch or 324mm triple torpedo tubes. Now, I'm not quite sure where they are on my model of Tycon, but they definitely aren't here. I would know. There's no missile launchers on here, unless of course they're built into the ship itself. But I don't see them, so I don't think mine's got hers in this particular model kit. Obviously, you guys can see she does have a hangar bay, which means she does carry 2 MH-60R Seahawk Lamps Mark III helicopters. My model did come with helicopters, guys, but they were not very good, so I have not put them on here. Same will go for the rest of me modern fleet, guys. I'm not really going to be focusing too much on any aircraft they come with, not unless it's an aircraft carrier. But, spoiler alert, not really focusing on aircraft carriers. So, yeah. And that basically is the general characteristics of the Ticonderoga from what I can find out. Again, guys, I do apologise for not being as professional as usual, but again, these are modern warships, and I can only work with, well, I can only work with what I've got, really, you know. It's how it is sometimes. Anyway, let's talk a bit about why I got my hands on Ticonderoga in the first place, and is she worth getting for yourself, I'd probably hear you guys ask. Well, first and foremost, guys, this is not the only way you can get USS Ticonderoga. Dragon, another model company, makes her. Trumpeter have got a model of her, and I know one or two other companies like Reville also have a model kit of her out there somewhere. I do believe the Dragon model kit is the original mould for this kit, and then Natalieri, Trumpeter, Reville, and a few other companies obviously, made derivatives of their own. But my one, as you guys can see, is the classic Italieri 1/350 scale model version of her. Number 1, number 553. So, yeah. So, Ticonderoga actually wasn't a ship I was really too bothered about to start with, really, guys. Not gonna lie there. Quite frankly, when I was growing up as a kid and I used to hear about this ship, she used to drive me the other way, and it's mainly because of that superstructure. She's not really... Well, I mean, the hull is beautiful. The hull of her is absolutely stunning. Very sleek, designed hull. But like the Sperance class, which you can see in the back of this picture here, she's quite blocky on top. Now, I know, obviously, the 80s, a lot of ships were kind of like that during their time. All the compartments are all in one thing. That's one thing I do know about modern warships. You have all your computers and technology, and I sound pretty old, don't I? But I'm not very good with computers like this, and yet I can play video games and design stuff. I don't know. I'm autistic. Screw it. Just go with things. Anyway, so back when I was a kid growing up, the two major reasons why I started getting to Ticonderoga were not actually because of the ship herself. The first reason was because of a video game I played back when I got a PlayStation 1. It was one of my very first computer game consoles I got as a kid growing up. And with my PlayStation 1, obviously I got games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, you name it, I pretty much played a lot on that console. But I also had some of the more niche games that came out on there, and one game in particular was called Battle Stations. Some of you may know it, some of you may not know that one. There is a long play on YouTube, so if you guys type in Battle Stations PS1, you should find it straight away. And that was the game that got me interested in the Ticonderogas as a whole. Because in that game, you played as surface warships, mainly the US types, and you had the Sperance class as the destroyer, you had the Ticonderoga as a cruiser, obviously USS Missouri Arroyo as a battleship, you could play as a Nimitz class aircraft carrier, I think the Oliver Hazard Perry frigates were also in there, and I know there was a submarine as well. So yeah, it was a pretty cool game, very niche, very destructive, very, very able to blow the crap out of everything that got close to you, sort of thing. But that's what got me interested in the Ticonderoga to start with. Then I officially actually met this ship, or at least one of her sister ships, down at Portsmouth one year. So can't remember which year it was, but it must have been about... I'm 34 now, so I must have been 11, 12 years old. Anyway, the thing is, so me, my mum and dad, we were on the harbour tour down there, because if you go to Portsmouth, the naval dockyard down there, the historic part, you can take a harbour tour around the historic part of the dockyard, where the captain of the ship in question gives you a tour on what ships are in harbour, bits about HMS Warrior, HMS Victory, and obviously Mary Rose and all that lot. But if there's any warships in harbour, he will give you some general characteristics on what they are and all that stuff. And at the time of this trip, I remember seeing one of the Ticonderogas down there visiting the country. And obviously he pointed out various things and bits and pieces, and yeah, I had an interest ever since then. But for some unknown reason, even though I've been model building for a good 20 or so years now, I never decided to get my hands on her. Maybe it's because, as I mentioned before, modern warships weren't really a thing I was interested in at one point in time or another. But I digress. Here she is, and I'm very happy with her. So, I got this model off of eBay, and I'm very lucky to have this one apparently, because she's quite rare. But if you guys are interested in getting your hands on Ticonderoga in 1/350 by Italieri, there are two things I must tell you about before I suggest you buy this model kit. First and foremost, guys, the model kit is a beautiful and very clean model kit to work with, but she does have one or two small fitting issues. So bear this in mind, and I will show you these issues as we go before I talk a bit more about the paint job. Now, I've got to try and keep her on the side there so you can see. Are you going to tip right over, Ty? Please don't. No, she's going to tip right over, isn't she? Come on. Behave yourself. There you go. That's it. So, you can probably see one of the issues right here. As you can see, the whole hull itself went together in two bits, in two pieces, but it went together well. There was no problems with the hull on my part whatsoever. The most of the superstructure went together absolutely fine, but the main part of the superstructure, so it consists of the bridge part all here, which is made up of about 6 or 7 pieces of plastic. That is fine. And then obviously the rest of it is all one piece of plastic. I've actually got a couple of photos of Ticonderoga in the building stages, so you guys can see some of the work I've done there. But you'll notice there's a huge issue when it comes to trying to get the superstructure attached to your main deck of your ship, and I did my best, guys. Seriously, it just was not having it. Some people have obviously done some, polyfiller in bits and pieces. I do have polyfiller, but it's not going to work on a model like this because it will just make it look really ugly. So my one unfortunately has got that seam in it, but I mean, I've grown to like it. It's an older kit, I can't really complain too much. But that is one of the major fitting issues I found with this model, and I know I'm not the only one. There's a few people out there that have also had this issue. My other issue I have with Ticonderoga is also the helicopter. It is ugly. It does not do that picture any favours, so I've not introduced that whatsoever. The other bit of good news I can share with you guys is if you are interested in get Ticonderoga and you want to obviously add more detail or replace certain bits and pieces onto her, you definitely can do this. There is photo etch sets out there for the lifeboats, the radar, the guns, the missiles, the masts. There is photo etch out there for this kit, and I have seen 1 or 2 YouTubers out there who have already built this model kit and have done a very spectacular job on her. So well done to those who built her, because you made her look fantastic there, guys. Good job. Anyway, let's talk a bit about the paint job and then conclude this model review. So, you'll probably notice Ticonderoga is probably not the typical US grey that you see in pictures and other bits of media. I had a hard time trying to find a grey that was suitable for Ticonderoga. Now, I can understand some of you guys going, Baz, why don't you just look at the plans? It'd probably tell you, wouldn't it? My plans were not the clearest. They were definitely not the clearest of plans. They were easy to follow, but when it comes to the paint scheme, it was not very helpful. So I basically had to work with what I got, use my imagination, and I've gone with a paint scheme that I know works for this sort of model kit, and I'm going to be carrying on with it in the foreseeable future if I do build any other modern US warships. I am looking at you, Arlie Burke, and I'm also looking at you, Oliver Hazard Perry, because some of you might know I actually am working on Oliver Hazard Perry, but more on that later. So, the grey is called Stone Grey. It's by Cathedral, and that's the grey used for the superstructure, the hull, and all the bits and pieces that needed to go that colour. Oxide red for the bottom of the hull, matte black for the line and, for the water line and all the bits and pieces in the mast, the smokestacks and all that lot. Flat, just a plain white for the white pieces, including the top of the phalanx guns, the Aegis systems and all the other radar systems, lifeboats and all those bits and pieces. As you guys can probably tell, there is a few lacks of some decals around. This model is quite old, so I did have issues with the decals. I'm not really going to give them any bad problems because, older decals tend to fall apart if you leave them for too long, so that's not a fault of the model, that's just down to the age of her. However, I was able to get the 47 on there, and I was able to get the 47s that go on the back, and don't do that to me, and I was also able to get her name put onto the back of the ship as well. You might notice that it actually doesn't spell Ticonderoga properly. It actually says Ticonderoga. There's actually a funny reason for this. Now, when I was building Ticonderoga and I was attaching the older decals, I'm very lucky to have even half of that on there. The decal split apart into several places, and that is the result of that problem. So, again, I'm not going to fault the decal. It's an old one, and they generally do get very fragile if you leave them in the box too long or you don't touch the kit for too long. Now I'm having trouble trying to get it back on the stand. There we go, that's it, sit there. So the main deck is dark sea grey, just in case you guys are wondering, and that's basically all I have to say about Ticonderoga's colours and other bits and pieces. So again guys, if you are after Ticonderoga and you do want to get a model of her or one of her sisters, there are plenty of opportunities out there for you. Just obviously bearing in mind if you're trying to get one of the classic kits, you might have a hard time from time to time, but you never know, keep an eye out, you might get one. I do recommend it if you are looking to build a modernish warship fleet. I always say, if you're going to build a fleet of modernish ships, or any ships for that matter, you need at least one of each class of that period of time. And the Ticons are the battleships, like the Kurovs, of their time. Obviously not battleships of cruise, but you guys get the meaning. That's what I'm trying to put across there. Anyway guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this model review. Again, sorry for the lack of information, but this is how it's going to be when it comes to modern warships, because it's difficult to try to keep track of where some of them have been. And, well, you know how it is sometimes with some things. But nevertheless guys, I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this model review. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a nice weekend, and look after yourselves out there. Take care. Ta-ta for now.